Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Mike and Peter talking about mental health in the legal profession. Today, we're talking about what I would call AI anxiety. In my profession, I get a lot of anxieties. That's what I deal with. And every time something big comes up, it seems legitimate to have that anxiety. Often it's because there's anxiety going on already. But at the moment, I get lawyers with AI anxiety. Is that necessary, Mike?
Necessary. I don't
You're the
know.
lawyer.
I mean, I think look, it's we're at a point in time where daily seeing articles, you can't walk around without getting an article about AI or its impact on all sorts of industries, including law, but also creative industries, right? Music and film and art. And so I think it's not surprising that in folks who are worried or anxious that this would be the focus of their worry or anxiety, because I think it does, it can raise scary questions about, economically, sort of existentially, right? If what we do and how we define ourselves can be replicated, I think it raises questions of like, how, who are we, what are we, and also, what does that mean for the future? So, I think it's as good a thing as any to be anxious about, I guess. I understand it.
I think people are worried about their jobs. Are they now going to be made redundant,
For
fired?
sure.
Something creepy coming up, sneaking in, taking over my job. And uh, from my perspective, having been part of the beginnings of AI back in the early 1990s, when something called translation memories were invented, all they could do was to remember what we'd done before. If they saw the same thing again, they would suggest the translation I did for that before. And then I could check whether I liked it in the context or not, or change it. That's a memory. That's not AI. It doesn't create anything. It just remembers.
Right.
But we also, as I said, it is all over the place in the news, in the media, everywhere, with thousands of job losses in customer service, for example. And we see media posts about lawyers getting their fingers burnt because they used AI and didn't use their brain. So I'm not in the legal profession as a professional lawyer, but I can imagine that there would be some good stuff about it, that you can do the donkey work, that it's
Sure.
more alert than a tired lawyer who's had enough of reviewing a document, for example. Can it be a help?
Yeah, so I think that it's this issue that we get anytime there's a new technology or technological shift. And I think that, for AI, of course, it can be a great tool and it can eliminate, work that we don't like doing. But, that dividing line between when is something a great tool and when can it replace your job and what's left for you to do and how do you make a living? Those are the questions that I think are causing, concern. But it is something that happens every time we have a new technology or a new medium. Although this is, it seems like this is a pretty big one. The advances that have happened on the technology side from the time you were talking about, to kind of what's possible now and to sort of create content, and learn and recognize patterns. I also think, so for lawyers, it's a double-edged sword, as for everyone. And there is that story that went viral. It was picked up by the New York Times, but there was a lawyer that used Chat GPT, to write his brief and do the legal citations, and submitted it to court without checking it. And turned out that the citations that were made up, the citations weren't real. They weren't real cases. It just made up the answers. And it was funny. I was thinking about this the other day, and people are sort of so outraged that artificial intelligence just makes stuff up. It fills in gaps. But I think that's actually kind of what intelligence is. Like we interpolate, we fill in. That's like the most human thing I can think of, right? To sort of make up stuff when we don't quite know the answer and try and fill in the gaps with what might be reasonable. But I mean, I think that shows that at this point in time, these are not perfect tools. These aren't tools that can be used without us, at least now. So that was an interesting story, and I think one that I think raised the profile of AI kind of in the law, with sort of that cautionary tale.
And your industry is exactly one where you have to check and double check and triple check that what you're proposing and saying or quoting is actually real. So it's a big bear trap to walk into if you just rely on a machine to do the thinking for you. But one of the things I've also come across is people are not necessarily unhappy with the legal tech, whatever tech it is. They're unhappy with the way it's being introduced, sort of thought through, dumped on them, as if there's a sort of a hidden motive by the bosses that, we introduce all of this, and now people are sitting there waiting, when do I get my marching orders? Have you come across any of that in your conversations with people?
I mean, I definitely watch the legal tech industry and people's interaction with it, and tools, AI aside, tools have become better, and we have automated things and made things, document review, from when this time I started my career to now. There are vast improvements. But I think, also for, people don't want things foisted on them without their control, right? They want to be able to use tools intelligently. So, I understand that. I mean, I think for me, I want to shift this a little bit. Actually, I know we want to talk about, AI and law and its impact economically, and why it causes anxiety. I also think the anxiety is actually coming from a little bit of a different place, where, and I'm not actually seeing as much written and as many people talking about this one, as all those other issues. And I think it's coming from a place of, like existential dread. like who are we? What am I? What is, what is being human? What is being creative? What am I? What is the soul? Like, I think we have this magical thing, like there's some magical thing inside of us that allows us to be creative and think. But when we see machines with memory and really sophisticated pattern matching, I think it raises natural questions of, like, are we just really sophisticated pattern matchers with memory? And, what is humanity? And I think those are big questions. I mean, aside from legal tech.
And I think you're probably hitting the head on the nail there for a lot of people, that there's a fear which goes beyond the mere being replaced at work. Is actually, are we now going to be taken over by a machine that we have created? Just like really back in the old days where we had the first sci-fi films and everybody thought, oh my God, what's going on? But technology is here. It's not going to stop. We're not going to go back to the Stone Ages. So we somehow have to learn to live together, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. And I think, people don't know necessarily what that evolution is or how we're going to regulate it and what the economy is going to look like. And so, yeah, technology is here to stay, and technology advances, and we can look back historically at these big technological shifts and kind of what happens afterwards. And, we're still here. But I think that unknown is the scary part, right? Like, we don't know what that future looks like. And it feels like, could that future be really different from my present? And what does that look like? And where do I fit in? And to me, that's sort of textbook things to worry about.
And that speaks an awful lot to human nature. We are not good at coping with the unknown. And when we don't know something, we immediately head south in our thinking. So if we don't know it, if we don't understand it, it's got to be dangerous. It's got to be something bad. So I'd rather say no. Instead of embracing it and saying, okay, that looks interesting. Let's see what this can do. But there is this fear of the unknown, as you said, and that may be what is creeping in the legal profession, as we talk about today. Of course, also other professions. But I think people are afraid of being replaced or being superseded by something more intelligent and creative than themselves. And what I know about AI right now means that I can't actually answer that question. I don't know.
Yeah. I think we don't know, and I think we have to sit with that, discomfort, and realize that we're also, first of all, we're humans, and so the fear is there as a kind of survival instinct, right? And we have that kind of fear reflex that keeps us safe, but we're also in this modern world, where we have to understand it and think about it and recognize that the fear-based mindset isn't always, and is often not positive for us, especially in these areas where we just don't know. But we are in a world where we've seen the sci-fi movies, and we read media headlines that sell, which we're bombarded with, are keyed in to sort of trigger those fears. So I think it makes sense now to understand, like, hey, there's a lot of bad that could happen. I read an article the other day about an AI that can imitate people's voices like perfectly. So I mean, that's really fascinating if you think about sci-fi, and like, I can talk to my grandmother, my deceased grandmother, and it sounds like her, but I also think about all the bad things that can happen. So I think we have to understand it's the unknown, understand that it's a tool, and there is a lot of good, but eyes wide open on the bad stuff, and we kind of deal with it as we deal with it.
I think you and I have read all the headlines, and as you said, headlines are designed to be scaremongering and to be negative. That is what sells. Paper, media, or social media, anything in the news and on telly. But what do real people like you and I, who are in the real world out there, what do we think? And I would like to ask our viewers to just comment on their views or experiences with AI, because it's here to stay. Let's not think it's going to go away. It's not. But what can we do to make the best from it instead of being afraid of it? That would be interesting to hear.
Absolutely.
Thank you for watching. See you later. Take care.